May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Mormon? Dr. Nemekis?
Here.
Ms. Davis? Mr. Weinbrenner? Mr. Noble? Ms. Zinzer?
Here.
Mr. Lane?
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right, thank you. What a great, nice, boisterous group of folks we have. This is indeed an exciting night, and perhaps one of the more nicely attended meetings we've had, which is great. In the past couple sessions, I've talked about different ways of working and policies and the way we look to work together with everybody in the community, and those stand. But tonight, I wanted to make sure that we stressed and appreciated the good stuff. For instance, we're pleased to announce the launch of something that I know Shayla's been working on for a while, of our student supports, which is a multi-tiered system of support with resource information for our students. Over the past several years, we've worked to align our academic, our social, and our emotional supports at LFHS. This is coming to fruition. This is something that I'm very proud of and to see coming along, and I really appreciate Shayla's leadership on this. That is a good thing and a model of success. Other things are happening around the schools with our students, and tonight we're going to get to talk a little bit about those, but not all of our student success stories will be shared and talked about tonight as much as some others, so I wanted to draw a little bit of attention to other successes we're having, like with our music program. We have 7 LFHS music students who have been selected to participate in the November 11th Music Festival held at Grayslake North High School. It's an honorary special recognition that department and those students are gaining, which is fantastic. We do have some fantastic athletic success that we will be talking about shortly in the superintendent's report. I promised him I wouldn't steal his thunder, but we're very excited about that, and that too is something we should be proud of as a community and proud of our staff and our students. That's great. Our high school achieves really high academic honors. That's why I was really happy to see that there were 143 Lake Forest High School students recognized as Illinois State Scholars. 143. That's truly impressive. That's a recognition. Yep. That's recognition of our students who demonstrate academic excellence, and I'm proud of them. We also, amongst that group, have 9 who are National Merit semifinalists, which is truly impressive, one of which is sitting in our front row here right now, and a friend of mine. So congratulations on all the academic achievement of all of our students. But I also want to acknowledge success that occurs with the staff, the administration, the teachers, and when a community comes together and works together. Tonight, we are going to be voting on the new agreement with our teachers. After a lot of work by Sally, by Jen, by Rebecca, by Mike, by untold others that I couldn't even know who was working together on this, we have reached agreement with our teachers, and as a group and as a community, we've got a great new 4-year contract that we'll be voting to bring to fruition tonight. So this day is a day to reflect on all the good stuff we do as a community and how much we support each other. And I just wanted to say how proud I am to be part of that. And with that, I'm going to turn it on to Mike and the superintendent's report.
All right, thank you, Mr. Lane. And I will hand off to Dr. Holland to begin.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sarah Byers. I'm the student body president. Updates regarding the student body include something that we started last month called Student Council Appreciates, in which we find a way to appreciate a different group of faculty or a different club every month. We nominated our November candidates this past week, and last month we appreciated the band for all that they do. We are also assisting the Cool Food Pantry through our school-wide food drive. Seniors are bringing in canned fruits and vegetables, juniors, boxed meals, sophomores, cereal and granola bars, and freshmen, soup and canned meals, and then our staff is participating through condiments and baking goods. And our hope is to get school-wide participation to help give back to our community this season. Finally, we have requested 4 families for Catholic Charities, in which we purchase different gifts and different needs for families. Overall, the student body is just focusing on giving back this holiday season and making the community a better place. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. So I want to start by saying Happy Veterans Day to everyone. and I want to thank everyone who joined us for our annual Veterans Day program. We were joined by Lieutenant Colonel Vicky Argueta from the United States Army as our guest speaker. We were also able to honor Lieutenant Colonel Ted Mormon as our first community veteran honoree. Thank you to the planning committee and all of the students who participated in making this a very special event today. I also want to thank our students for stepping up to organize and plan a Veterans Day program today in the community of Lake Bluff. Our students learned that there were plans not to have a program, and they met with community leaders, worked with Mrs. Kessler, and organized students to participate in a meaningful program. Thank you. So the school's vision is to inspire the passion to learn, the insight to know oneself, and the courage to make a difference. Our school's mission is Lake Forest High School will be the leader in developing every student's capacity, character, and confidence to make a difference in their world. Both programs today were clear examples of who our students are, their character, their confidence, and most importantly, their willingness to truly make a difference in their school community. We are proud of our students inside and outside of the classroom, and I know a part of the superintendent's report will be to honor some of our students in sports, so I'll skip that. Lastly, I would like to thank everyone who participated in parent-teacher conferences. I hope you found the short time with your students' teachers insightful and helpful. In the case that you weren't able to schedule a conference or an appointment, please reach out to our teachers. They're always willing to have conversations with you about your students. Thank you.
All right, and with that, I'd like to continue the superintendent's report by asking our IHSA State Championship girls tennis team to come out with their coaches. So, well, why don't you guys come around here because we get a better view of you over here. All right. All right, so this is the state championship girls tennis team, and Coach Denise Murphy and Coach Corky Layton, our assistant coach Corky Layton. Are they here?
I'm here.
Yeah?
Corky's here.
All right.
Hi. Congratulations. Yeah, Denise is working, so she's.
All right. So, if you guys wouldn't mind, so Grace, why don't you start us off? Introduce yourselves.
I'm Grace Michelle. I'm Sarah Gosharian. I'm Lily Gosharian. I'm Salma Al-Sakabi. I'm Olivia Weldon. I'm Kyla Rabjohn. I'm Kathy Pasquale. I'm Autumn Rabjohn. I'm Sophia Falls. I'm Keita Mohan.
All right. So the team dominated throughout the tournament, you'll be happy to hear, leading 24-18 over second place Hinsdale Central on day one. Lake Forest ended day two, leading Hinsdale 35-32, and increased their lead over Hinsdale on the last day, 39-33. So it sounds like it was a really, really good run. So the doubles team of Lily and Clara, right, added 6 points to the team's total on their way to the 2019 state championship. And by the way, this is, I don't know how many state championships teams we've had, but you guys are six with the girls. And the doubles team of Nika and Salma, where are you guys? Okay, Salma plays fourth in doubles. And one of the things that's interesting about tennis is we always think of it as an individual sport or sometimes a double sport. But as far as the team goes, everybody contributes. Everybody plays a significant role. And so Autumn Rabjohns placed fifth in her first trip to state, right? And so Autumn, right? And then Kylie, where's Kylie? Kylie is now the second year in a row the 2A Division state champion. So congratulations, Kylie. And who's the team captain, team captains? Okay, so Salma and Grace. Any moment in particular that you guys looked to and said, boy, this was like the coolest thing that happened?
Maybe when Kylie won, we kind of all knew, or Salma and Nick were still playing, but we kind of knew that we had clinched it then, so just running on the court, congratulating Kylie.
How about for you, Salma?
Well, it was the same moment, but I was actually in split sets, so we had a 10-minute break, and during
Well, you guys may not know this, but we have a state tennis champ that's seated at the table here as well, one of the board members, Mr. Noble.
What I would say to you girls, I'll make that. I think this spring's 34 years since I did that. You will get more joy than you have today. In about 10, 15 years, you'll look back at these memories. They'll be so powerful. And it is so neat that you did that. And what Mike is saying is a team, you don't get the opportunity to do it very often. And later in life, it'll be very individualistic. It's about what you do, family, and those things. But the time you got to share and help, practices you went through, things you did, applies to the guys on the golf team as well. I can't say enough that you will remember it today, but you will remember this in the future, and it will mean a lot. And you'll have one of those state things up on the wall, and it'll have your names and those things, and it'll be there for a long, long, long time. And people will send you little pictures that they do to me today and say, hey, I saw you, John, at the high school, and they'll send me this stupid picture with my curly hair when I was 18. So you're going to get a lot of those. But congratulations. I'm so proud of you, and that's awesome. Great.
Okay, so congratulations, girls. And one of the things that our kids do a great job of, all of our students, is a ton of our kids go and cheer for their classmates in other places. So I want to bring the boys out, and they did pretty well too, by the way. And so please stay for them, and then you can stay for the rest of the meeting if you want to, or go home and do homework then, all right? So congratulations to the 2019-20 IHSA 3A State Championship Boys Golf Team and to Coach Jim Matheson. All right. Let's go ahead and line up here so we can get a good look at you, fellas. Yeah, there you go. Great idea, Grace. Thanks.
Not a lot of room.
All right. All right. So go ahead and introduce yourselves.
I'm Sam Rogers. Charlie Avery. Dr. Moore. Connor Cushman. Charlie Mountain. Jim Matheson.
All right, so this group of boys, they have all sorts of different proud moments for them. So they have 7 all-conference tournament members, 4 NSC all-academic members. They have 1 IHSA regional individual champion, Pierce Grieve. Pierce? You have grown like 1.5 feet. Yeah. Last time I saw you, you were like about up to your shoulder. Second place in the tournament, Patrick Moorhead. They were undefeated in conference play. They had 4 invitational tournament victories. They're the NSC Conference Tournament champions. They were the IHSA Regional champions. They're the 32nd in school history. And the IHSA State champions. They're the 5th in school history, 99, 04, 10, 11, and 19. And so what many of us don't know is that, who's team captain? Okay. There is a really amazing story on how you guys wound up in the state finals. I'm assuming that you guys know this story, right? One of you two, or share it, tell us that story.
So basically, we looked like we were going to qualify in the last 4 holes, and let's just say we didn't play our greatest, but we were 1 shot behind from qualifying. It was kind of heartbreaking. And Stevenson, Barrington, and DeKalb qualified, but there was something called setting the wrong scorecard that John Stevenson did, and the Stevenson coach did the right thing in terms of it. We unfortunately got disqualified, and with the next best score, we beat Stevenson by 1 qualified, so it was quite a miracle. So we took advantage of it on the stage.
So if it hadn't been for the honesty of the coach and of the individual player then as well, stating that, our team wouldn't have made it into the finals, right? And so Is it Patrick, right? So as a team or individually, what was the lesson from that for you guys?
You get good breaks, and you just gotta take advantage of them. Everyone gets some, and it's just kind of how you go from there. That makes a difference, I guess.
Yeah. That's really a big deal to sign the wrong scorecard and have that happen, I would think, because that meant that Stevenson didn't make it into the finals then as well, right? Right. So, well, that is one of the reasons that we want our kids to participate in things is so that they learn lessons just like this. Hats off. You don't do this very often, but hats off to the Stevenson coach for doing the right thing. And congratulations to each and every one of you on yet another proud moment for our high school. So thank you. Welcome to stay as long as you want. I'm going to say congratulations to the girls, and I'll be right back.
That's all she wrote. Yes.
All right, so to conclude the superintendent's report, I wanted to share some other interesting and largely good news about our high school. That is our state tennis champions and our boys, again. I want to go through, not quite as exciting as talking to the kids, obviously, but our state report card data. The state report card was recently released. And there's some very interesting information in there that I would like to touch on. One of the first things is the graduation rate, 99%. I want to say thank you and congratulations to Dr. Holland and also the team at the high school because this number is a number that has steadily moved up, not because our kids were not graduating, but because of increased attention to compliance and making sure that we had the right information in there. And I'll touch on a couple other areas here momentarily. But related to graduation, what you can see is across the years, these numbers have risen. On the bottom, 94 to 99. On the top, from 92 to 99. Depending on the degree to which we were paying close attention to how our students were tracked within the state system, what we learned was we were not getting credit for students that were moving out of the district, and it was actually affecting our graduation rate, making it look like fewer of our students were actually graduating than were. So we have one of the highest graduation rates in the entire state and in the nation. Ninth grade on track. That's another piece of the data from the state report card, 98.2% of our students, again, amongst the very highest in the entire state. I use this as a point of information on graduation rates, but you can go and look at this a variety of different ways. This is another segment of the report card, and this is English Language Arts Achievement in 11th grade. It's taken from the SAT. All students in the state are required to take that. The red triangle is us, and what this indicates is it is our graduation rate, but it also indicates where we are in terms of our English Language Arts test score. We don't talk a lot about grades and test scores. We are, the little dot next to us, that is New Trier. We are #1 in the state in English Language Arts in terms of the number of students that meet or exceed state standards. And if you look across the board on this, math is very similar, but there are times when we should, I suppose, talk about some of our students' academic achievements, and I think this is one of them. Another thing that is part of the report card is the early college coursework. The number to look at is the percentage of students taking early college courses. This is 2016. That number is 35.5%. In 17, it rises to 37.6%. In 18 to 40.9%. And for 2019, it's risen to 43.1%. These are students that are either getting AP credit or dual credit in some form. Dual credit is not as well known as AP coursework. Dual credit tends to be easier for students to transfer to a 4 or 2 year college. We expect this number, by the way, to continue to increase. To come back to the district report card, there is a couple other aspects of this I want to point out. One of those on the bottom left is chronic absenteeism. We have the state calculates this a certain way. Our chronic absenteeism is somewhat characteristic of high wealth communities. We do have more students who are chronically absent. These are social absences frequently for a variety of different reasons. So think parents are going on a trip of some kind and absent a student. We're quite a bit above a number of our peers. It's something that we need to take a look at. So the state designations also came out from the Every Student Succeeds Act, which is a successor agreement to No Child Left Behind. A couple points on state designations. The main thing is that the state will continue to move the goalposts around on all of the scores that feed into this. These changes will be arbitrary. So, for example, what is the cut score to meet? What is the cut score to exceed? Those are not scientific numbers that are driven by any sort of research on things. There is a group that sits and says, this is what I think the number should be, and then they pick that number. And the state will also continue to apply a bell curve to all districts in the state. That's a practice that school districts have moved away from many generations now. The designations for 2019 and 2020, there are a couple significant things to share here. We are recognized as a commendable school. Next year, we will be, again, recognized as an exemplary school. There are 3 primary reasons for that. There is a change to the importance of the weighting of chronic absenteeism. Again, we have much higher chronic absenteeism than our peer districts. It's also an addition to a science test in the calculation. And we did not administer that test last year. We will next year, and that will change our designation. And we will also, the required uploading of survey data to get the points in the state matrix. All 3 of these things are really compliance issues. First one is a compliance issue with our parents, not absenting their students for social reasons. That has a negative impact on us. The second is compliance within the building to ensure that we administer the tests that we need to. And finally, compliance of our survey data. That is both to upload that, but it is also our students are, we'll just say, remiss sometimes to complete their survey. And the lower the responses, the fewer points that we get on the state matrix. And so it is a long and it is a tedious survey. We know that. The survey also does render information that we otherwise would not have. Important information, particularly for us, about students that are at risk that we otherwise wouldn't have. We have the same difficulty getting our parents to complete the survey, full disclosure, but it isn't counted against us when the parents don't complete it. It is counted against us when the students don't complete it. One of the things where we are ahead of the state, and this is a note of congratulations for our board, for our staff, for our parents, is that our KPIs, our key performance indicators, are rooted in our mission, our vision, and our milestones. And the drive for that work was to focus on making sure that we had well-rounded students. So not just high academic achieving students, but very involved students, and also kids that had a strong sense of well-being. We strive for 4 different things for our students: high achievement, high levels of involvement. Almost 90% of our kids are involved in an activity at school. We want that very much. We also really push for a high level of school connectedness, and also there's a tremendous emphasis, and there has been for many years, on the emotional wellness of our students. So in Lake Forest, we want it all, and as some of the state report card results would indicate, we're really, whether it be state champions or high achievement on the state tests or what have you, we are really executing well against our ambitions. So with that, we complete the superintendent's report. And by the way, the state is trying to find a way to emulate the same data. They don't have the granular detail that we do in order to do that on a statewide basis, so they're going to struggle to do that. Thank you.
Okay, we're about to move into public comment. As we do so, I want to continue on the theme of being successful, and part of being successful is communicating clearly and listening actively to ideas that may be different than your own. Also, I want to make sure you understand in the superintendent's report, there's a couple things that we could have reported more quickly and reported better to help get some of those official standings on the report card higher. That's on us. We're going to make sure that we report those things more completely in the next cycle, because I want to make certain you guys all understand this. Go look at that report card. The student achievement on that report card was really fascinating and something that's really good. Top 10 in almost every measure, #1 in a couple. John, I don't want to steal our tennis pro's thunder, but he's going to talk KPIs in a minute and may allude to some of that. But I just want to make sure you guys know that we're very proud of where we're at as a group, but we also understand there's things we can do better. And on that note, and on the subject of doing better, now we're going to move into public participation. For any of y'all who are here in the past couple sessions, we've had some contrarian viewpoints expressed at the public forum, which I think is fantastic. I want to make sure that everybody either in the room today or watching or who's spoken before understands, and I've talked to a lot of our board members here, the board members and myself take all this very seriously. Every one of the opinions expressed, be it pro for one subject or con for another, is important for us to hear. I do appreciate it. And it's important that we continue to have that kind of dialogue going. In order to allow that kind of dialogue to occur, I want to again ask everybody if they could please try to, if they have any public comment tonight, when you go up, please try to keep your responses to 3 minutes. It's not because we don't care about what you have to say. It's because it just becomes hard to allow a large group of people to have a chance to speak and to be heard. So I hope everybody could adhere to that. But at that point, I don't even know if we have any public commentary tonight, but I hope so. With that, I'd like to turn it open to the public and ask if there are any members of the public who would like to address the board. If you wouldn't mind going up to the podium and state your name.
Lori Rose. Hi. My name is Lori Rose. I'm a Lake Forest resident, the proud parent of a Lake Forest High School and Deer Path Middle School graduate, and a former member and officer of the Lake Forest School District 67 Board of Education. Tonight I am speaking on behalf of the League of Women Voters of the Lake Forest Lake Bluff area as president of that organization. 2018 was the worst year on record for gun violence in schools. That statistic comes from the U.S. Naval Postgraduate School, a group that has been keeping records since 1970. Nevertheless, the Resolutions Committee of the Illinois Association of School Boards, or IASB, is asking school board members to support the concealed carry arming of school personnel, both teachers and others, in contravention of the current Illinois law. Despite the defeat of a nearly identical resolution, last year, the IASB resolution about arming school personnel has reappeared on the roster for 2019, following the worst year on record for school violence. If the proposed resolution passes and state law is amended, many families will not have a choice about sending their children to school in an environment in which concealed, loaded weapons are present. I addressed you last year when a resolution about arming school personnel was narrowly defeated at the IASB conference. Unfortunately, our Lake Forest schools did not send delegates to the 2018 IASB conference. Tonight, the League of Women Voters urges you to do 3 actions for the safety of our children. First, the League of Women Voters wishes to encourage you to appoint delegates to the IASB and send those delegates to vote on November 23rd at the 2019 IASB conference. I understand that this may have already been done, but I'm not sure what will happen in the consent resolution, so please bear with me. Second, the League wishes to voice our concern about the potentially dangerous consequences of an IASB resolution recommended for adoption at the November 2019 conference. We urge the school board to instruct your delegate or delegates to vote no on Resolution 1. Resolution 1 would, quote, provide local school boards the option to decide if they will allow for properly trained staff to be armed in school buildings. Schools should be places of safety. There is no evidence demonstrating that arming school personnel within a school increases school safety. In fact, a 2015 New England Journal of Medicine evidence-based peer-reviewed study concluded that more guns do not make communities safer, but do contribute to the rise in gun-related suicides and homicides. Finally, the League of Women Voters requests that you insist that IASB recommendations be data-based, utilizing evidence-based peer review research. This process will enhance public confidence that IASB policy recommendations utilize the best information available to create the safest possible options for our schools and our communities. Thank you for your attention and for this opportunity to comment.
Thank you. Appreciate you expressing your opinion. Are there any other members of the public who'd like to speak tonight?
My name is Lisa Spano, and I live in Lake Bluff. I'm the parent of 2 Lake Forest High School graduates. I recently Googled Young Americans for Freedom, and these were some of the words that came up in my search: conservative, alt-right, white nationalism, homophobia, anti-Muslim. I attended the October school board meeting where YAF parents spoke. Mr. Hender called YAF a Republican club twice, while Mrs. Gianelli said the group was nonpartisan. Those words above that I said do not represent the Republicans that I know. Both Mr. Hender and Mr. Gianelli stated that Mr. Hender started the YAF group at our school along with their daughters. I find it disturbing that a parent would bring this controversial club to our high school. School clubs should be student-driven, not parent-driven. This group also caused division and discord within our community on 9/11 with the YAF Never Forget kit that was purchased by YAF parents. The kit included American flags, YAF propaganda, and an instruction guide that YAF calls a battle plan. The battle plan called for group prayer and said, don't let the left appropriate this day to promote their political correct socialist agenda. 9/11 is a day that all Americans should come together to remember one of the most heinous days in our history. Instead, the YAF group said they were attacked, they were victims, not the nearly 3,000 people who died on that day. It is wrong for parents to promote an agenda of intolerance at our high school and to use students as their pawns in doing so. And then people wonder why families don't want to move here. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public who'd like to speak tonight?
Good evening. My name is Renee Settles, and I thank you for the opportunity to speak. Ever since I attended the last board meeting, I have been deeply troubled by something that was said during the public comments. I have felt uneasy and frankly ashamed, but I want to make sure that everybody heard the comment correctly. One parent said, while from my viewpoint, looking in the direction of the principal, and I quote, "Maybe it is diversity that is throwing us off in the rankings." And I unquote. Dr. Holland, I apologize on behalf of myself, most parents, and people in our community for these words. We as a community are much better than this, and we find this unacceptable. Dr. Holland is greatly admired and loved by students, faculty, and parents. We applaud the changes that she and the board have made over the last years. For example, loosening up the tracking policy has been the best thing for my daughter and many other students. It's the focus on this individual development that I highly regard. Every student peaks at different times. There is not one way to learn. And this way of learning is also in line with what the millennials will look for in our schools and communities, namely choice, flexibility, inclusion, and diversity. I loved hearing that we offer our teachers inclusionary training. It's another example how our high-achieving school stays up to date with the current trends in the business world. We hear from our students who leave for college that they have been extremely well prepared for success. And I thank Dr. Holland, the administration, and our teachers for this. I am, however, very concerned that a small group of community members, with the help of a large outside organization and lawyers, that seem to attack our students and administration. They waste, in my opinion, valuable time and resources with FOIA requests and numerous meetings. This is time and money that could be much better spent on keeping our district competitive. I'm also very concerned about the enormous amount of money that is involved with the YAF organization. I do not appreciate such a big outside force that comes in to meddle into our school and community. The national group systematically and strategically attacks everything democratic as socialistic and unpatriotic. An organization that does that so consistently cannot hide behind saying they are nonpartisan. I have absolutely no problems with traditional values, but I do have a big issue with people who are not inclusive. This is a public school, and public schools by law have to be inclusive and do everything to keep inclusive. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, any other public comment? Okay.
I have a public comment. Do I have to go up there, or can I do it from here? I have a microphone. Oh, nope, her first.
Hi, I'm Cindy Broughton. I'm from Lake Bluff. I just want to commend the administration, the teachers, and the staff of Lake Forest High School for supporting the student committee that planned our Lake Bluff Veterans Day ceremony this morning. I've been to 16. I've mostly been bored. I was captivated by the students who spoke and their organizational ability. They did a superb job and represented not only themselves and their school, but also our communities at their highest level. What we should be promoting in Lake Forest and Lake Bluff is not divisiveness and the attempt to portray important issues in politically motivated and often false ways, but with integrity and civic discourse like the students displayed this morning. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public who'd like to speak?
As a member of the
Hi, I'm a student at Lake Forest High School. My name is Kelsey Marks. Some of you may have heard it. I'm the one who wrote that initial article that there was so much controversy over. And I would just like to clarify that I'm not interested in being a divisive figure, and I'm not interested in the controversy. But I would also like to clarify that I had a lot of good feedback from all sides. We had a great discussion as a community on this issue that we continue to have. And I think that's the role of a journalist and free press, is to start those discussions. And on that front, I'm very proud of the article and of the community. However, what followed was nothing short of intimidation. And I don't think we should continue to let that limit and scare our students into restricting their journalism. and their opinions. And I think what happened with a FOIA request, which was by a state central committee woman for the Republican Party, that was politically motivated, I believe. And I don't think that is any place in our school and in our journalism and our publication. And I think that there are a lot of good journalists have come out of Lake Forest High School. A lot of good journalists have written for the Forest Scout longer than any of us have been alive. So Lake Forest has a tradition of excellence. I'd like to see that continue. Thank you for supporting the Forest Scout and a free press.
Thank you. Okay, hang on, Ted. Is there anybody else in the public forum here that would like to come up and speak?
My name is Yu Shabaka Koppel. I live in Lake Forest. I have 2 kids at Lake Forest High School. Yeah. And on Kelsey's note about intimidation, I want to carry that on a little bit because the way she was intimidated is just not right, and it has intimidated a lot of kids at the school. First of all, I would like, though, to thank Dr. Holland for all you do for our children and for supporting your students in a meaningful Veterans Day today. It means a lot for the students what you do for them. When the Conservative Club started here in Lake Forest High School, I was really torn at first because in 5th grade, I joined the Conservative Youth, much to my parents' dismay. They were not very happy. And later in college, I joined the Libertarian Youth Movement in my country. These political clubs, they were never part of the school, and I don't think they should be. And I never aired my political views because I know that all my friends would just roll their eyes at me and say, grow a heart. And I hope I have since then. When the Conservative Club became a YAF chapter here at school, I was shocked. I perceive YAF and their rhetorics as divisive, hateful, misleading, and misguided. The National YAF leadership's extreme affiliations makes it even more difficult for me to understand how we can allow such a group to influence our students. They're still very vulnerable, and although they're very strong-minded, they're also vulnerable at this stage. This school year, I've heard about a freshman student coming home crying because she was called unpatriotic because she refused taking this little 9/11 badge from this group. I have heard about friendships being torn by this club, and I've heard about students with minority backgrounds being excluded from their friendship groups or clubs at the school because suddenly all their friends want to be in YAF. Psychologists in America and Europe, they warn that victims of racism and hate language are much more likely to suffer depression, anxiety, and suicide. I think we need to look out for everybody at our school. I'm not a lawyer, and I understand that the school has been under very great outside pressure to accept this particular club. I'm grateful that you try to balance it by also allowing a democratic club. However, I do believe that we're better than this. We don't need any of these divisive groups. I believe with proper rules about intimidation, harassment, and bullying, such as they have in Deerfield High School, Highland Park, Stevenson, New Trier, they have several pages in New Trier, there are 4 pages about it, to prevent these kind of groups as well. That we could have been better prepared to prevent a club that's spreading so much fear, sadness, and sleepless nights among several members of our community. I ask you both to support Dr. Holland and to implement similar policies as the other schools have and create a secure and inclusive, positive environment in Lake Forest High School. And it should be for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Hello, my name is Casey Murray. I'm a senior at Lake Forest High School. I'd like to step back from the politics of the moment for just a moment today on Veterans Day, when we should be putting aside our divisions and focusing more on what unites us as a country. And I would say that what unites the student body in particular, beyond Democratic Club, Republican Club, Student Council, Model UN, Debate, JSA, all the other political clubs we have going on, is an energy for politics. People at the high school want to be involved. There are people volunteering all over the place. There are people volunteering with Democratic campaigns. I don't know any people who are volunteering with Republican campaigns at the moment, but there almost certainly are. At Veterans Day, a group of students from the high school put together an entire ceremony. The band organized, we got a firing detail from the Marine Corps, we got guest speakers, all sorts of amazing parts of the civic landscape that the adult leadership of Lake Bluff was unable to procure. And I think that that speaks to, as I think Mr. Simic and Dr. Holland have said, the brilliance, I would say, of the student body and how we are able to come together around what we believe is important. But I think it also speaks to the fact that we don't have an outlet for that political energy. Like, there's High School Democrats of America, there's Young Americans for Freedom, but there's a broader sense of we can't change anything, a broader sense that we can speak up, we can say we don't like that or we like that, but that we aren't listened to, we don't have agency. And I think that that is a big part of what's driving all this division, is when you try and dam a river, what happens is the river doesn't like the dam, it starts overflowing and it starts causing disaster. And I think that that's a big part of what's going on right now, is people are upset that they can't implement the policies they want to see. They can't have that sort of discussion that actually influences anything. And so I'd just like to say that in light of all this, the school board, the school should seriously consider allowing students to actually have a say in their governance, in having an elected student council with a fully functional student legislature that can propose, that can listen in on the school board's discussions, have members elected by the student body sit ex officio on the school board and start actually influencing policy and saying, this is what the students of Lake Forest High School believe, do with that as you will, but we sure hope that you listen to us, because right now we don't feel that we're being listened to. Thank you.
Thank you. Please state your name when you get to the podium.
Hi everybody, I'm Grant Huebner. I'm a student at Lake Forest High School. I'm a junior. And I personally would like to definitely agree with the remarks of my friend here, Casey Murray, about the fact that students at Lake Forest High School don't really have a say in their situation. As the remarks earlier about how intelligent and how good we are at test taking and how we've been improving and all these things and how good the students are at Lake Forest High School, that is amazing. I'm so glad that we're improving here. We're able to show how brilliant many of us are and what we can do with that. But the thing is, at the same time, we aren't able to control ourselves to have any say over a situation. So I truly do believe that we should have an involvement in student government led partially by the students with the school board and with the administration, because I truly believe that we can have, with these greater minds of the 1,600 students at Lake Forest High School, who could truly make this place a better place. I simply think that if we have, as 16-year-olds, 14, 16-year-olds, 18-year-olds, I think we all have a desire to make ourselves better and make our homes and our district a better place. And I truly believe that if we allow these students, the majority really, to have a say in their situation and to be able to make their situation better, that we all will benefit from that. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public who'd like to come to the podium and speak? All right, Ted, you're up. You can stay. You can actually stay there and speak.
I'm Ted Mormon, and I just want to say somebody already took my thunder, so I'll keep it really brief. I attended the Veterans Day ceremony at Lake Forest High School today as well. I was amazed. I'm a disabled vet. First, I want to thank Dr. Holland for her leadership in putting together a great program, the band for uplifting amazing music. You couldn't find any better musicians anywhere. The students that put together the program and the patriotism displayed by high school today was overwhelming. And I, for one, want to thank all the students, staff, and administration for that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ted. And thank you to all of our guest speakers. I really do appreciate the time everybody takes to come and share their thoughts and vision with us. So thank you very much. With that, I'm going to move into the committee reports and start with the Education Committee with Dr. Nemekis.
So the Education Committee met about 2 weeks ago and had a very substantive discussion regarding the value of Lake Forest High School's diploma and the work that's been done over the past several years with the guaranteed and viable curriculum. And we've recognized that we need to better align some of the policies and procedures, both to make a uniform experience for everyone and ensure that we're doing it in a fashion that's reasonable and accommodates requests for potential outside credits, et cetera. And so Shayla and her team are in the process of putting together some policies or streamlining some policies and proposals that I'm sure we'll see come back before the board at some point in the near future. And then our next meeting is December 18th.
Great, thank you, Tom. As I introduce Sally to discuss the Finance and Ops Committee, I did want to take a minute to acknowledge, I do appreciate the students who come and participate. And Casey, I'm proud of you for volunteering to be on our Finance and Ops Committee. So that is actually coming in and contributing, and we would welcome any students, including Casey, if you can get my boys to come, any students to come and participate in the process, because that's great, and I'm really happy to have you on the committee that Sally's now going to talk.
Well, Dave Lane took my thunder. Now I don't get to talk about Casey. The Finance and Ops Committee met for the first time this school year on November 1st, and we spent the majority of that time, first of all, reviewing and agreeing on a modified committee charter, which we're going to be voting on tonight, which is largely intended to align us with the District 67's Finance and Ops Committee charter. The second thing we did is we reviewed in detail the background that led to the tentative school levy for next school year, which will be voted on tonight as well. We were joined again by community member Mark Allen, who's rejoining us, as well as two new committee members, Bob Gelderman and Casey Murray, which we very much appreciate. We will be meeting again next on December 4th. At that time, we are expecting to have the auditor's report in hand, and we'll spend the majority of our time on that. We will also be talking about the fees that are charged to the community for use of school property. So you are all welcome to join us. Thanks.
Thank you, Sally, and thanks to the other two new members of the Finance and Ops Committee. Moving on, the Policy Committee with Ted Mormon.
We have not met since our last board meeting, and we are scheduled to have one sometime in December after press releases their next ream of data.
Okay. Thank you. With that, we're going to move on to our liaison reports, and John Noble is going to speak both about EdRed as well as our KPI scorecard. John?
Thanks, Dave. On the EdRed side, not a huge update, other than that the task force from the state was supposed to release an update of their initial review of information October 31st, which they did not deliver. So we're waiting for some indication from the property task force from the state to give some information. The large report of their conclusions, or at least recommendations, are due to the governor by the 31st. So we'll see what kind of happens, and I'll just keep you updated for what might come here for the next board meeting. The EdRed organization also formed 3 ad hoc groups. I think they'd done a few of these in the past, but I am sitting on finance and mandates. We did the initial meetings this just after last board meeting, and so we're going to be meeting again in the next week or two on mandates and finance issues. Our recommendations that I got from Mike and the other board members I've shared with those groups, and so we hope to next maybe 2 to 3 months get something out of EdRed of what they're going to push to the state and from these from these ad hoc groups, and hopefully that'll align with maybe ISFB and some of the other folks. So we'll get some movement, and then again keep you updated on that.
In regards to KPIs, sorry for my boots. It's bad out. Does this power or no? Sorry. Okay, cool. All right. So as part of the process of being a new board member, I was assigned new duties. So Sally said, go work on KPIs. So I've been working on KPIs. And what we've been looking to do from the KPI perspective is try to align these with what happens within the school. Let's see if I can make this scroll. I probably can't. That's right. There we go. So as a guidepost for what we're trying to do from a mission, vision, milestone, our district and what we look at
really wanted to use these in terms of what we're looking at to form KPIs, that we could communicate better how the school is doing. A lot of folks look to the report card or look to U.S. News and World Report and see what our ranking is. Most of those things don't really reflect how we're working as a school. And the reason is that they're very reactive and they're set up on whatever data is available across the nation. So we've got a lot more data, as Mr. Simic talked about. So really following these guidelines, we've started to look at what KPIs should we be looking at, what do we want to highlight, how do we tell our positive story. I'll come to the web link here in a moment and show you what this thing starts to look like. But when I made a phone call to the U.S. News and World Report to find out why are we ranked this number or that number within the state or within the country, the initial comments from the chief data scientist was, you guys are doing great. Okay, that's nice. Well, what do you mean by great? Well, we're third percent nationally out of 14,000 high schools. In Illinois, we're 4% out of 650. Now, this is 2016 data, so they're kind of behind. We've already made progress in some of these things, but at the same time, I'm sure Stevenson and New Trier and other ones are doing well too, and that's just fine. But we need to be continue to looking to move forward, and we are. From the ISBE state report card, you'll see very good data as well. Interesting to note, as I think Mike shared, we're number 1 in the state for ELA from the testing of the SAT. We're number 4 in math. And when you add in the magnet schools, there's 5 of them, and we're 6th and 9th. So these aren't all the answers in terms of the kids, in terms of what we're looking to measure, but they're really powerful indicators that the engine of the school is doing the right thing. It's creating the opportunity, creating the excitement, and at least the passion for learning and exceeding. Some of the KPIs we've highlighted that we're going to work from, you can see here, and these are the current targets and the achievements from this past year. So this is, as we look to the community, this data doesn't become available till the end of October in terms of publicly across the state. So we're going to be looking to when exactly we will publish them and how do we work them, but essentially taking a few of them that are publicly available. So freshmen on track, which Mike talked about, attendance in terms of those numbers, and setting targets with what the administration feels are reasonable for us. We'll continue to revise these targets and move forward. Extracurricular participation is something about really how well-rounded are the kids. Now, this is not just sports. This is everything. So from clubs, from chess club to math club to other types of things, to as well as sport participation. So this measures what are the kids doing. Now, we look at this as how many kids are doing 2 and 3 activities as well. The state really only looks at 1. They're starting to move towards that better participation might be better to understand. So when you think of the kids that might only do some sport or activity in the fall, that's great, but they may be left out in the spring. So really, from Shayla's perspective and the school's perspective, how do we make sure they're engaged with activities all year round? That, again, allowing them to fulfill their passion and their desire as they grow and learn. Early college coursework, Mike highlighted as well from the APs. That number is slightly different, just so you know. It only measures sophomore, juniors, and seniors in terms of the state number that we look at and the target. Not that we don't mind the freshmen taking it, that's perfectly fine. But in terms of numbers and measurements, we're looking at those. ELA for this SAT and the math are the other ones, as well as then our SEL, social emotional learning surveys that we measure and track, and you'll see what those measurements and those targets are as well. Lastly, then we look at a fiscal health of the district. And right now we're going to be looking at our target somewhere between 10 to 20%. Our current policy indicates 10%. That is something we're also looking at to see how we might change and identify a proper target for our fund balance from the fiscal health, but we're running it right now at least to have moved towards a much healthier number. 2 things that I'd like to note is the future targets and where we're going to be looking to move these. So these are things that we work right now with Mike on terms of his goals and measurements and how we look to hold him accountable from board and what we look to, as well as then how do these goals and objectives move down into the building. So from Shayla and her team, what they're really looking at is how to understand what are the operational metrics that they're looking at from a day-to-day, month-to-month, year-to-year basis, where we really need to be at a strategic level. Where do we directionally want to be in the 3 to 5 year time frame? So how do we move in a nice, peaceful way and give them guidance, but how are they then going from a day-to-day, hand-to-hand combat perspective with the kids, the teachers, and the environment. And that's crucial. And so that is essentially some stuff we're looking at. The last point from a continued development, I've been working with Mike and the board and others around how do we look at measuring growth? How do we look at measuring learning? So not 1 year measurement or snapshot, but how do I look at a set of freshmen and project where they might be and where should they be junior year, and have they achieved that? And we've been developing some KPIs that I think will replace the static assessments and look at really on that task of I've got a freshman and where they are today, whether they're an exceptional learner or a laggard, that's fine, but where should they progress to? How do we take care of every kid? And that is some stuff we're on development. So this document will become public. The details around it you can start to see, and this is a kind of a continuation of thinking that we've been doing around this work. And so I think we're really close to finishing, and you can just see a little bit of a snapshot of those things and the detail within it, and again talks about what's going on within the building. And we hope to make this published sometime in December. The pretty views of it currently, Anne may shoot me for showing you, but there we go. We'll take a look at how this looks. Magic technology. So wow, little pretty things, right? Pretty graphs and pictures and sliding things with stars. Isn't that cool? So anyway, we'll have that, and you're going to be able to actually click down below and say, I'd like to read more about this. Well, let's see if it works. We'll click on it, and there we go, another pretty chart. So you'll have lots of things to digest. The state report card is fantastic. This is another way to look at some other information, get a little deeper dive. And again, part of it is, I think, telling the exceptional story that's here. We can get better. We can continue to care for the kids, and that's our goal, and we'll continue to do this, and hopefully this will be a nice little pretty story for you guys to see as we progress, okay? So there you go. We good?
We're good, John, and you're always about the pretty. Thank you. That's awesome. Okay, moving on now to the action items. Again, just as a reminder, we'll introduce the action item, call for a second, see discussion after we actually get the second, and then cast votes after if there is discussion. So to start with, may I have a motion to approve the 2019 tentative tax levy?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, Matt. Oh. Jen, do you want to say anything about this?
I'll just give you kind of the quick version. So how the schedule works is the board does adopt a tentative levy in November. It'll come back to the board for a vote for a final tax levy in December. The board can make changes between November and December if it so chooses. I will also note that in my packet, it's actually the wrong cover memo on it, but I can't see what you see. So just to be clear, what you are adopting is a tentative levy for the overall aggregate amount, which would look on a chart like this if you have it in color. It's yellow in the last page. It's an overall aggregate amount of $42,585,739. That is an increase of 2.15% over the year prior.
Okay, and I would just reiterate that we're sharing this now as a tentative levy suggestion. In December, we'll bring this up to a vote to bind it. Are there any other questions or commentary on the tentative tax levy? Okay, with that, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Zinser?
Aye.
Mr. Lane?
Aye.
Mr. Mormon?
Nay.
Dr. Nemekis?
Aye.
Mr. Noble? Aye. Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Weinbrenner?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Next up, may I have a motion to approve the LFEA 2019-2023 collective bargaining agreement?
So moved.
Before we go into roll call vote, I did want to say a few things about this because this is very important. You know, the new contract that we're talking about today was designed to attract, retain, and recognize high-quality staff members while maintaining the district's financial health and remaining fiscal responsibility to the community. I feel very good about this. the reality is that this new 4-year agreement gives us the opportunity to advance our shared educational goals, which are defined in the district's vision and mission statements. And this will also ensure that we're competitive with schools and districts. And it is actually further testament to the manner in which that we've worked together hand in hand with community, with staff, with administration as board members. So I'm really happy and appreciative, again, I want to reiterate, of the work that went into this and the approach that has been used for several years under Mike Simick's leadership to bring us to a good, agreed agreement. And so with that, I did want to see if, Jen, if you wanted to add a couple comments about the nature of the agreement.
Happy to. I will hit some financial highlights and also a few of the language agreements. I would like to echo your comments. I am very excited to bring this contract. It is a 4-year contract, so 2019 through 2023, to the board for approval. District administration, board representatives, thank you, Sally, for attending 28 very long meetings, Dewey for bringing us home on the last meeting as well, and faculty have met for what I feel was very open and honest communication. We didn't always see eye to eye, but we certainly had a ton of discussion, and everyone, I believe, also had the district and the students always kind of at the forefront. What is it doing, what's best for kids, and I think will be echoed in some of those KPIs in the future. So some of the specifics, it is a 4-year deal. Financially, is within our parameters that were established by the Board of Education. Base salary increases in years 1 and 2 are set to the CPI that corresponds to the revenue for that year. So it's a 2.1% for 1920, 1.9% for 2021. And they're actually tied to a formula in years 3 and 4, which is a CPI-based formula. It is equal to CPI. There is no floor on that, meaning if CPI is 0 or 0.5% or 0.1%, which we have indeed seen, that will be the increase on base salaries. It also has a ceiling in those same years 3 and 4 of a 2.75%. So if CPI and inflation were to increase rapidly to 4% or 4.5%, our base salary increases would be capped at 2.75% for those particular years. Some of the language highlights, I would overall characterize them by being very collaborative. We've established or have at least solidified in writing some committees in which faculty and administration are working together in various areas such as technology, professional development. Professional development in general is also one of our highlights. It really, I think, establishes the board's commitment to high-quality professional development for our high-quality staff members. In addition, the last thing I would like to highlight is also made some adjustments and really some clarification. I think it's important to both sides in the area of teacher evaluations. So how are we evaluating staff? How is it clear and fair to all involved? So we've made some good strides in that particular language sections. All in all, this is roughly a 95, I think, page collective bargaining agreement. So I've kind of given you the highlights. If you have any questions from the draft that you received or anything else, Rebecca or I would be happy to answer.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Just one. I see that Paul Goldstein is here. I wanted to say thank you. You and your colleagues spent an awful lot of time at the bargaining table with us. I was genuinely humbled and honored to have the peek inside the workings of your concerns and your passion for what you do and your care for the students. I have a much better understanding, I think, of the pressures that you all feel. And as I said to the teachers, by the time we left the bargaining table in May and then I saw you again in August, you guys looked like you had lost 10 years. You were so much happier and more relieved. The stress that you guys put yourselves under is enormous. And again, thank you for the opportunity to have a little window into what you guys go through.
All right. Thank you. Are there any other comments? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Dr. Nemekis?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Weinbrenner?
Aye.
Mr. Moorman?
Aye.
Ms. Inzer? Aye. Mr. Lane?
Aye.
Mr. Noble? Motion carries.
May I have a motion to approve the 2019-2021 Finance and Operations Committee Charter?
Second.
Okay. Sally, did you want to add anything on this? Or?
Just quickly, as I said, Jen and I had the opportunity to sit with the chair of the Finance and Ops Committee for District 67, and we talked about some minor modifications that will bring the two into compliance with each other. We had the opportunity to review it with the Finance and Ops Committee, and they didn't have anything to add.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay. Seeing none, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Lane?
Aye.
Ms. Zinser?
Aye.
Dr. Nemekis?
Aye.
Mr. Mormon?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Noble? Mr. Weinbrenner?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Moving on. May I have a motion to reject the IASB recommendation to adopt resolution on student safety at IASB Delegate Assembly?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, commentary. Mike, do you want to elaborate on this?
Sure. The IASB committee brought this recommendation forward, and my recommendation is to reject that. And what their recommendation was to allow the IASB to advocate at a state level for the arming of individual staff within a school building, and I do not think that that is a prudent thing for our board to approve the IASB to advocate for statewide.
Okay, thank you. Any comments? Okay, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Mormon?
Now, since this is double negative.
So it is to reject, so by voting yes, you vote to reject the recommendation of the IASB.
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Dr. Nemekis?
Aye.
Mr. Lane?
Aye.
Ms. Zinser?
Aye.
Mr. Weinbrenner?
Aye.
Mr. Noble? Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Moving on. May I have a motion to reject the IASB recommendation to adopt resolution on school safety grant program at IASB Delegate Assembly?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, again, Mike, do you want to elaborate?
Similarly, this would be for IASB to advocate statewide to allow former police officers who retain the ability to have concealed carry for them to be armed within a school building, and my recommendation again is to reject the IASB recommendation.
Okay, any other commentary or questions? All right, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Weinbrenner?
Aye.
Mr. Mormon?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Noble? Ms. Zinser?
Aye.
Dr. Nemekis?
Aye.
Mr. Lane?
Aye.
Motion carries.
May I have a motion to reject the IASB recommendation to adopt resolution on school safety traffic zones at IASB Delegate Assembly?
So moved.
Again, Mike, would you mind?
Yeah, so this is, there are aspects of this which, as some of our board members have pointed out, which actually look quite attractive to us. District 67 voted to reject this because one part of this was of particular concern, and that was that IASB would advocate for the traffic calming and speed limits to be 20 miles per hour, regardless whether there was school in session or not. So imagine driving by every school zone in the entire state, whether it's on a Saturday or a Sunday, and being required to drive 20 miles per hour during that zone. They did not believe, nor do I, that that was necessary in our community.
Okay, any other commentaries or questions on that? All right, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Noble? Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Weinbrenner?
Aye.
Mr. Mormon?
Aye.
Dr. Nemekis?
Aye.
Mr. Lane?
Aye.
Ms. Zinser?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Have we taken a vote? I show that we did. Have we taken a vote on the resolution for school district police force?
No. We have not.
Okay. All right. Thank you. May I have a motion to reject the resolution on school district police force at IASB Delegate Assembly?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Mike, will you elaborate?
This is to allow school districts who formerly had a police force to reestablish that police force. I recommend that our school board and IASB, that our school board reject IASB's recommendation to adopt that resolution.
Any questions or comments? Okay, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Dr. Nemekis?
Aye.
Ms. Zinser?
Aye.
Mr. Mormon?
Aye.
Mr. Noble? Mr. Lane?
Aye.
Mr. Weinbrenner?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. May I have a motion to approve the human resource report as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Mike, did you have is there anything of note in there that we want to discuss?
One of the things that does stand out in here to me is that we're hiring ACT prep instructors. One of the things that on entering the community, and this is the same for me as it is for Dr. Holland, is to respect the traditions of the place. And one of the things that Lake Forest has long valued is the choice among students to. There's a great deal of latitude that they have over a variety of things. The state moved away from the ACT, and now the SAT is a statewide test. Many districts have eliminated any sort of ACT test prep within the walls of their school in order to try to drive the SAT number up. 95% of our families last year still chose to write one or more checks to ACT in order for their students to take that now eliminated test. And this is part of a reflection of our actions to continue to support what our families want and what may or may not necessarily make the school look as good as it possibly could, but this is something of value to our families. And that is part of what we're doing here.
Okay. May I have a roll call vote?
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Mormon?
Aye.
Mr. Lane?
Aye.
Mr. Noble? Ms. Zinser?
Aye.
Mr. Weinbrenner?
Aye.
Dr. Nemekis?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. So, a rather long consent agenda list today, so I'm going to begin reading now. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda items, including approval of disbursements, payrolls, and financial statements for September 2019, approval of IASB recommendation to adopt resolutions on business enterprises minority-owned at IASB Delegate Assembly, approval of IASB recommendation to adopt resolution on background checks, substitute teachers at IASB Delegate Assembly, approval of IASB recommendation to adopt resolution on school board elections, seating of new members at IASB Delegate Assembly, approval of IASB recommendation to reject resolution on school board elections, swearing in at IASB Delegate Assembly, approval of IASB recommendation to adopt resolution on school board elections, terms at IASB Delegate Assembly, approval of IASB recommendation to reject resolution on school board member compensation at IASB Delegate Assembly, approval of IASB recommendation to adopt resolution on charter school renewal of charters at IASB Delegate Assembly, Approval of IASB recommendation to adopt resolution on charter schools, at-risk students at IASB Delegate Assembly. Approval of IASB recommendation to adopt resolution on position statement 5.05 Prevailing Wage Act at IASB Delegate Assembly. Approval of IASB recommendation to adopt position statement 1.01 Educational Programs at IASB Delegate Assembly. Approval of IASB recommendation to adopt position statement 2.27 State Authorized Charter School Funding at IASB Delegate Assembly. Approval of IASB recommendation to adopt position statement 2.04 Funding Special Education Programs at IASB Delegate Assembly. Approval of IASB recommendation to adopt position statement 2.04 Funding Special Education Programs at IASB Delegate Assembly. Approval of IASB recommendation to adopt position statement 1.08 Standardized Testing Procedures and 1.09 Student Assessment at IASB Delegate Assembly. Minutes of a regular meeting and workshop, October 7th, 2019. Minutes of an executive session, October 7th, 2019. Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay,
Could you read that again?
No. No, I need to drink this full thing of water first. Okay, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Mormon?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Dr. Nemekis?
Aye.
Mr. Lane?
Aye.
Ms. Zinser?
Aye.
Mr. Weinbrenner?
Aye.
Mr. Noble? Motion carries.
Okay, great. We had 2 FOIA requests. Linda Hindi, status complete. Jennifer Neubauer, status complete. Announcements, November 27th through 29th is Thanksgiving break. Monday, December 9th will be our next Board of Education meeting here at 7 p.m. And with that, may I have a motion to adjourn the Lake Forest Community High School Board meeting?
So moved.
Second.
May I have a voice vote, please?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.